Hey, everybody. Welcome. Latest edition of the Hunt Club podcast, Cybermind. I'm Woj. If you've tuned in the past, you've probably seen my face, recognized my voice, however you're consuming this. Um, One thing about Cyberminds, this is great, is we love to bring in guests from not only inside Vectra, but even more exciting people from our customers outside Vectra, different perspectives on cybersecurity and super excited, and you're going to probably see this person on the show a few times, hopefully, but we'll see how much he enjoys this first episode. Wes Farris, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Why don't you kind of give the audience a quick intro on who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thanks for that, Woj. Um, Wes Farris, been in IT for, I guess, over 25 years now. Focused in cybersecurity and primarily in the healthcare space since '06. So long time there.
Yeah, we've seen it
Hard
all.
to hard to believe it. It's been this long, but uh, so enterprise IT space for a long time, focused in cybersecurity. Feel really blessed to be in this space and to have been here as long as I have been at this point, and looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, it's nearly 20 years, Wes. And it was funny because I was like looking at um I was asking the Google machine, Chat GPT and AI, what's the average age of a cybersecurity professional? Because you and I had talked about this, like when we first, met each other at Hunt Club, and then we had a couple calls where we were just brainstorming ideas for the show, and like one of the topics we we kind of talked about was like, who's cut out for cybersecurity and who isn't, right? And when I did this research, I was like looking, I was just poking around. It was like, oh, the average age is 43, right? And that means they, started probably in the early 2000s, right? Early to mid 2000s, similar to you, like 20 years in the space, and the need to like bring more people into cybersecurity, right? And we're going to talk about that. I think we'll probably touch on that a little bit today, but I think that there's probably potential other shows we can do with you on that topic. But um, who's cut out for cybersecurity and not? And I wanted to, given you probably fall in the average 20 years, and in your cybersecurity leader, and it's like in your mind, I want to going back to the question, like who's cut out for this and who isn't. Like, what characteristics do you look for? Like, how do you distinguish that? Are there any specific things that in people, young or old or whatever, like, yep, this person's cut out for cybersecurity?
Sure. I I think, as in most things, right, the core components should be a natural curiosity, self-motivated to learn in that space, and specifically for cybersecurity, a general technical prowess or proficiency or desire to learn technical things, right? I think if you take someone of average or above intelligence that has those personality traits, or perhaps any cybersecurity leader could train them into cybersecurity. Um, Self-motivated people are, I think, at a high value. So
Yeah,
having someone that's driven, self-motivated, curious, and hopefully that curiosity leads into passion, right? To
yeah,
a natural sense of passion about the space that we're talking about, cybersecurity. So those personality traits are probably most important.
yeah. It's interesting. God, some of the words that you used, like we're all a buzz here at Vectra, because Gartner released their first ever Magic Quadrant on NDR, right? And that's a whole separate podcast. So tune into a separate podcast on that kind of topic. But I was thinking about this in preparation for this show. It's like when you think about the Magic Quadrant, and you had said some of these words, and there's these, four kind of squares in the quadrant. There's like leaders, challengers, visionaries and niche players. And then those vendors are typically scored, ranked, interviewed. Are you cut out for this category is basically what they're asking through interviews. And it's like completeness of vision, ability to execute, right? So, yeah, what if we did a magic quadrant on cybersecurity professionals? Like, could you do a magic quadrant on people, right? And then how we ascertain whether you are cut out for this role? Like, do you have a vision for it? Are you curious? Right? Are you self-motivated? Are you driven? Right? Ability to execute on that axis, it's like same sort of thing. Do you have a technical mindset? Are you ability to ascertain problems and figure out ways, be curious about how you solve that problem, right? Does that resonate with you? I mean, in terms of like, you're interviewing people, you've got people on the team, they need to be, you want to grow and develop them. You've grown and developed yourself. Like, how do you feed off of that?
Sure. So if I'm interviewing someone for a position, number one, it's what level is the position. So let's just talk. I think the general conversation is going around like maybe someone entering into the space. So maybe like a level one analyst.
Hmm.
Um, we've talked about self motivation, curiosity, um, and technical proficiency. So I would be curious myself about the person's level of interest. What are they doing? Do they have any technical hobbies, or do they have any special areas of interest in IT or the cybersecurity space? What kind of projects are they working on? What kind of research are they doing on their own? All of those things would be very telling to me in terms of level of interest, right? Because if I look back at myself as a young technician, I had labs built out. I was constantly trying to do my own research. I was in school, taking classes and then talking to people and trying to get in with people that were already in the industry just to teach me. I was very motivated to find resources and to plug in. And so I look for those same traits in people trying to enter this space today.
Yeah, I think that hobbies, projects, research, what motivates them. And you and I talked about this when we had first met, and it's like they don't tend to be financial motivations, right? With the level ones and the entry levels, because it's like, and well, in my era, it was always, yes, areas of interest. You kind of went through the motions of graduate high school, go to college, get a degree, get a job in that degree, make money. And I'm like, uh, you know, when you're interviewing people, I would wager a guess that financial motivation does not come up a lot with a younger generation, or at least younger generations applying for entry level cyber. Do you see that? Do you look for that? Like, are
No,
people who are financially motivated, the cyber, there's a ton of money in cyber right now.
I
I can
don't.
make six figures. I'm going to go into
Right.
that.
Well, actually, that's an interesting point. So I find it interesting that it's hard to recruit people into this space. It's hard to get people to be excited about it, despite the fact that you can enter into the space as a level one analyst in the right local job market, hitting or exceeding the low six figure. So the low six figures. So if someone approached me wanting to enter the space simply for financial motivators, I wouldn't be inclined to work with that person. Probably, I would have the conversation with them, and figure out more. But no, I think your best analysts, or engineers, or people that will evolve into leaders, hopefully in the future, they're going to have that natural born curiosity or interest in the space. They're going to want to already be doing things just for the
Yeah.
fun of doing them, right? And you mentioned, you used a phrase earlier that is absolutely paramount, is the desire and the ability to problem solve and identify problems, right? So look at the team that you're going to be working with, look at the organization that you're going to be working for, and be able to identify problems and then come up with solutions or potential solutions to those problems. That's really important. And I understand that maybe someone coming in, super fresh to the industry may not have that visibility yet, but the desire to learn that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you had talked about it being hard, like to find people, to recruit people into the space, despite the financial, elements of it. Why? Why is it so hard?
I I
I don't know.
I
Maybe we
don't
don't know
know.
we don't have the
I
answer
don't
because
have
then
the
it's
answer
like
to
it
that. Like
wouldn't
I
be.
said, it surprises me that more people aren't interested in this. And then a lot of the people I talk to just have a general interest based on the financial aspect. But
Yeah.
you can tell when you talk to them that they're really not naturally curious and interested in doing the stuff. No personal projects, no personal research. Just they almost want to be force fed the content, right? And then like led down a path to show me the path, and usually an academic path, right? If I
Yeah.
just go get this degree, and then where's the job? And so um, that's not that's not enough, or that's not what I'm looking for. I want to see someone that's already passionate about at least IT, or at least doing stuff on their own. Some kind of, if they just want to play video games with their free time, and they're not actually trying to work to become some more skilled or
Yeah.
more capable, then I would take issue with that a little bit.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, yeah, I think I wonder if a lot of younger people, um, there's one thing to be curious, you know, even if you don't have a degree or a technical background, but you're curious about the cybersecurity realm, right? And you're interested in learning whether or not you would enjoy that career,
Hmm.
right? So that person to me is like, okay, you just scored some points, right? Because of that curiosity and drive to be like, maybe this space is interesting. I'm going to learn about whether or not this is for me. I wonder how many people self disqualify, right? Like just admittedly say cyber is a technical, highly technical, because of its stigma for so long, largely coming from that stigma, but largely coming from a technical background. If there's people in like people with English degrees, people that didn't go to college that just self disqualify because it has this notion of being, a certain level of prerequisites, right? When you describe, yeah, obviously a technical aptitude is important, but not necessarily from the perspective of thou must have an engineering degree or a computer science degree. A technical aptitude could be purely driven by curiosity, hobby, etc. Self-disqualification. Is that a hypothesis that
No,
you would agree with?
it probably is. I think a lot of people assume that it's too technical, or too whatever that word is to them, right? Whatever
Yeah,
they would be excluding themselves, um, with with inaccurate assumptions. Because if you look at the cybersecurity space, there are all kinds of positions and
oh
all
yeah,
kinds of work to be done here, and it's not all uh, cybersecurity analysts, working in a
yeah,
SOC, or
yeah,
working in security applications. There's a ton of work to be done in this space, and a lot of it is more creative. So, if someone came to interview for a job, and they had an English degree or a history degree or something like that, but I could tell by the other substance in their resume that they were a curious,
yeah.
interested person, I would interview. I would not let those sorts of things stop me from talking to a candidate. You do not need a technical degree to excel in this space.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
do think a lot of people probably um, rule it out, maybe prematurely.
yeah, yeah. I think that there is this element of like I'm looking at the Magic Quadrant again, and I'm like, um, niche players, visionaries, challengers. It's like, who are those people that, um, like you said, there's so many roles, there's so many opportunities, that even, you know, you could call it a niche player. I call it like a specialist. They specialize in a certain aspect of cyber, right? Because there's so many different aspects of it, right? Challengers would be these really innovative thinkers that want to go and look for new problems to solve and have interesting ways of solving them, right? Visionaries are like, hey, where's the future going? They're probably more of a strategic mindset, right? More driven and self-motivated. And then leaders are leaders is like where you are today, where you've kind of gone through that journey. And it could literally start, you could start anywhere, to your point, right? Interesting. But we've got, God, we could talk about a ton of stuff because I want to pick your brain. I don't want this to go too long because we've got a few other shows with you queued up because I wanted to pick your brain on like, A, how do you get people into cybersecurity and kind of reflect on like how did you get into it, right? And that journey, because there tends to be some similarities and everybody has their own journey into the space, right? So just like understanding how that navigates, and maybe that'll resonate with people and be like, huh, I'm on a similar path, right? And I also want to talk to you, and I'm just going to do a teaser for the audience. I also want to talk to you about like you do some really cool stuff outside of cyber. Like cyber doesn't define your life. Yes, it's a 24 by 7 job, unfortunately, 7 days a week, um, sometimes. Um, but it's not like what defines you. And we'll get into that in the next episode. So I want people to like tune in and get to know a little bit more about Wes. Does that sound good to you?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So let's try and like summarize this convo. So we teed it up on like who's cut out for cybersecurity and who isn't. And you're like, I'm looking for curious people, people that are self-motivated, driven, have a passion to learn, right? And end up developing a passion for the space, right? Um, and have some technical chops, not necessarily a technical degree, but a, a a person that has a technical kind of aptitude, and you can kind of pull that out of them in an interview process or a conversation process. Um, what are their hobbies? What special projects are they working on? Um, can they research? Again, curiosity. Does that pretty much sum it up? Like anything I missed? Anything you want to kind of close it out with the audience?
Yeah, I would say that yes, curiosity, being self-motivated, having interests and hobbies in this space, because whatever career you're entering into, you want it to be sustainable. You want to have enough true personal interest in that space to where you're not going to be miserable at work, right?
Yeah,
So those things are the most important, and the abilities to identify and solve problems, and we can build those. We can train people as long as the natural interest and aptitudes are there. I think those are key. Um, just like with anything else, if you are curious and you enjoy working in that space already, and you're doing, look at all the information that's at our fingertips. Not only the internet, but everything that you can pull in via all the AI engines today.
yeah.
You can learn about anything. So if you have a natural curiosity in the cybersecurity space, I should be able to sit down across the table from you and have a pretty interesting discussion,
Yeah.
from the get-go. So yeah,
It's
it's probably the most important characteristic is a
all right.
natural interest and curiosity in the space.
Yeah, you just teed up another episode for us, Wes, to talk about. AI will never replace the human in cybersecurity. That's my belief. Will it replace some of the tasks that humans do that are mundane and sure, it can.
Yeah,
It can. If you trust it enough, it can. But I argue, no matter what space you go into, and you just touched on it, like the word curiosity is great because um I think in the end, the people that ask the best questions are the ones that are going to succeed, no matter what career path they're on. So like asking really good questions and trying to uncover, and heck, that's what we're doing with ChatGPT and other, AI assistants and whatnot. You have to ask it a good question. It has to be clear, right? You have to have a reason for asking that question. You have to do something with the answer or ask another question based on the answer you get. So it's like, anyway, curiosity, 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 and drive. Well said, Wes. If there was a magic quadrant for security leaders, I think you'd be, or security people, you'd be in the leader quadrant, no doubt. That's why I like
oh,
having you on the show. So,
oh, thank you for saying that. I appreciate it, and thank you for the opportunity.
no, I appreciate your time. I know you're super busy. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Wes. This was fantastic. I guarantee you, we're gonna get on another one. And please comment, share, like, do whatever, submit questions, topics for Wes and I to talk about or, just to have on the show. So with that, thank you, Wes. Thank you
Thanks,
everybody
y'all.
for tuning in.